Before we begin, we'd like to respectfully acknowledge that the land we're located on belongs to the traditional territory of the local First Nations.
My name's Chloe.
My name's Caitlin.
I'm Jack.
I'm Anna. And I'm Natasha.
And we're Team 12. So a lot of sustainable initiatives run into problems because they aren't economically viable. People are like, okay, we only need environmentally and socially viable. Economic viability is just as important as the other ones. So we're going to try and focus on the economic ramifications of a lot of our problems so we can make sure it's actually possible.
In our first year, we're going to be installing a subsurface drip irrigation in the spring before we plant. This will help save water usage by about 50%, and our overall yield will be better.
In year 2, we're going to be implementing windbreaks and riparian zones. Windbreaks will be used in between the fields and along the edges of our property, and riparian zones will be used along the edges of our creeks. They help prevent wind erosion and keep the soil in place.
In our third year, we're going to incorporate animal tilling, and we're going to use their solid waste to prevent nutrients from being stripped from the soil, as well as prevent algae blooms in the groundwater by using liquid manure.
So a big part of our plan comes in year 4, and this is where we're going to implement our research or testing plots. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight a few of the sustainable initiatives we have at our farm in hopes of allowing people to come through and see those initiatives and bring them back and just teach people about what we're doing. So the first test plot that we're going to be using is a test plot of compost.
So for compost, what we're going to do is we are going to have it at schools, and we're going to take their compost and give them an opportunity to compost, and then take it back to our farm and replenish it into the soils to give the soils more nutrients. For our pollinator garden, we're going to encourage pollinators such as bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies to come to the garden and produce fertile seeds for future planting, as well as we're going to incorporate bird houses to work as a natural pest control so that the birds will eat any bugs that are harmful to the product.
So the third test plot we have here is we're going to have an example of the three sisters, corns, bean, and squash, which is one of the prominent plants that we're planting on our farm. So the three sisters, corn, bean, and squash, work really well together. The corn is tall and strong and can hold the beans, and the squash covers the ground. So this is a really good example of intercropping, which we can teach people about the benefits there. And the indigenous story of the three sisters can teach people about the indigenous stakeholders who gave us this idea, which is sort of part of the agroecology principle. And then the last test plot is an example of crop rotation. Similar to intercropping, it can highlight the importance of moving the crops around to benefit the soil health and make sure the organisms are working well.
In our 5th year, we're going to use our educational plots to conduct research. So like Jack mentioned, intercropping is a crucial element of agroecology. So we're going to be testing different combinations of crops to see how well they grow. When we conduct research, we'll be able to share what we find with other farmers so that everyone can benefit from our knowledge.
Okay, so we're going to do workshops next. Okay, we're going to do workshops next, which we're going to bring people in and show them how our farm works using workshops, and we're going to introduce new farmers and teach them better methods.
So in the last year, we're going to implement a marketing strategy to try and provide our farm to the public. So we have a lot of really good initiatives going on at our farm, and we want to make sure that people outside of our farm can benefit from the things we're doing in the community. And so we're going to present an advertising campaign, make sure we go to all the schools where the compost program is going on, and make sure that we can present all the things we're doing so that people can bring them home to their own farms and to their own homes in hopes of spreading sustainability. Because sustainability doesn't work if only 1 or 2 people do it. It's really important that everybody is doing it in the long term.
So we're going to bring our crops to the farmers market to first gain a profit, and then second, get people to come to our farm to give them more. We're going to bring people to our farm so they can learn about how we are utilizing our crop rotation and our intercropping so that they can bring it back to their farms as well.
So that concludes our 10-year plan, but besides our 10-year plan, we also have our forest management plan, which will be implemented for the full 10 years and continuing after the 10 years. So, Southern Ontario is in the Carolinian forest region, so this means we have lots of mixed wood, including but not limited to elm trees, ash trees, and black walnut. These are the 3 prominent tree species that we need to take care of on our farm. So with the elm trees, they are dying off a little bit, which means they are probably being affected by Dutch elm disease. The ash trees are also dying off and are probably being affected by the emerald ash borer. And the black walnuts are fine, but young black walnuts can sometimes be susceptible to butternut canker. So it's important that we take that into consideration for a forest management plan. So what we plan to do is thin out about 1/3 of the dying and diseased trees. So that would be elm trees and ash trees, taking out the unhealthy ones, making sure we don't move the firewood in case of the ash trees, just to get those trees out to make sure that we don't impact the health of the actual healthy trees. Then we will be replacing this with other Carolinian species like sugar maple, beech, even black walnut, just to make sure that other invasive species like European buckthorn don't grow in their place. And then, obviously, as with any forest management plan, we'll be continuing to monitor and protect our forests to make sure that it's a healthy stand.
Just to summarize our 10-year plan, we're starting off in year 1 with subsurface drip irrigation. In year 2, we're implementing windbreaks and riparian zones to prevent erosion. And in year 3, we're implementing animal tilling. In year 4, we're making 4 education plots with examples of different types of sustainable farming. In year 5, we're going to conduct research on these plots to figure out some new best management practices. And in year 6, we're implementing a composting program in schools to teach students about how to compost and then bringing the compost back to our farm. In year 7, we're going to implement natural pest control and make a pollinator garden spread around our entire farm so that we can have healthy crops without using fertilizers or pesticides. And in year 8, we're going to the farmer's market so that other people in our community will learn about our farm and we can make more profit from what we're growing. And in year 9, we will have workshops to teach people about seed saving and other sustainable practices. And in year 10, we're going to market our farm more, because if nobody knows about our farm, then it's pretty much useless.
So, as you've noticed, a huge part of what makes this farm function is that in the first few years, we're implementing the most expensive plan. So subsurface drip irrigation costs a lot of money to do. It's not cheap. But because we're implementing it near the beginning of the plan, it's going to give us a longer time to reap the benefits of the 25 to 50% of water saved. And the windbreaks, that's expensive to plant a lot of trees. Animal tilling, it's expensive to buy the animals. And so as we go through, things get cheaper and cheaper as we continue to reap the benefits of all of these guys. And then our plan focuses a lot on doing research and testing. And so when we're doing sustainable initiatives, we don't have a one-size-fits-all situation. There's not one answer to all the problems we're facing trying to make our farm more sustainable. And so by conducting research and trying out new things, we have a chance of learning a lot and being able to share that with other people.
So just to conclude, we are Team 10 and this is our presentation.
12.
12.
We're 12.